Hi, welcome back to Keep It Dirty, a podcast where my guests share their life living sustainably and functionally, and the why behind their experiences navigating through our ever changing environment. I am your host, Leslie Dowling. I'm a corporate speaker sharing how one can jumpstart your path to increase revenue and productivity through restorative health techniques. And today it is my pleasure to welcome my guests, Stacy Hirschman, Sue Connor, and also Salima Ahmad. And today we're going to take another deep dive in have you been led to believe that your genes play a role in your health? And really, the topic of conversation is going to be centered around the environment. So, Stacy, maybe you could start us off and give a little share. Okay,
Sorry about that.
that's okay. Go
Mute. I
ahead.
forgot about the mute. Yeah, we are missing Linda today, but I am happy to try and set the context a little bit. Linda's so good at that. We are the five of us. We are FNLPs. We've formed a collective called Root Cause Connections, and what it means for us being FNLPs is that when we work with people, we are working with the people, not the diagnosis or the symptom. We look at all the variables, all the factors that go into how our bodies function for us, and we started this collective to try to help educate others on root causes and the connections in our in our bodies, into our environment, etc. We started out talking about, for those of you who have not joined us before, we started out talking about the three roots. When we look at things with people, we always kind of view it through the lens of three roots in any chronic conditions, and those are the genes, digestion, and inflammation. So we're here focusing on the genes. As Leslie said, we're talking about how people have kind of been led to believe that your genes predispose you to certain conditions in life, and we're kind of debunking that a little bit. We've said this before, that there's the saying that the genes load the gun and the environment pulls the trigger, and that's the kind of the perfect segue into our topic today. With the genes and all the roots, there is what we call our circle of influence, the factors that influence that root. And for the genes, it's food, movement, environment, and mindset. And we've already kind of covered the food factor, and so we're focusing today more on environment. And one thing I'll say is that I know people, when you think about how does the environment actually influence gene expression, um, you look at something like breast cancer, for instance, where there are certain genes that have been identified. People are most familiar with the BRCA genes, that when you have those genes, it's scary because you think that means you're going to get breast cancer, when the reality is, yes, there's an increased risk, but it's not 100%, right? It's not that everybody has those BRCA genes is definitely going to get cancer. So what is it that makes some people end up with breast cancer and others not? And you can think about it in terms of maybe an overall toxic load. How full is your bucket, we like to say, and what are the things that you're being exposed to environmentally that are impacting how those genes express, and what can we do to help manage that. We talk about detoxification, and that's just how well your body is able to eliminate the toxins that come in. Some of us are better genetically than others. And so, for those of us, especially who have a more difficult time eliminating those toxins, it is just as important to try to manage how many of those toxins are coming in. And you think about the ways that we detox, and, simply speaking, we detox through our sweat. So it's important to sweat every day. People, kind of underestimate the importance of that. Poop, of course, is another one. We love to talk about poop as FNLPs. And if you're not pooping every single day, then you are not detoxifying. People are not necessarily aware of that either. Some people think that they poop once or twice a week and that's, quote, normal because it's their normal. But that doesn't mean it's good. And then another way is just by drinking clean filtered water. Plenty of water every single day. And I know the guidance says, at least half your body weight in ounces. And of course it's variable. There are other factors that go into that. But anyway, those are some of the ways that we think of detoxification. And so I'm going to throw it over to you, Leslie, because I know this topic is something you're very, very passionate about, and I know you have a lot to say about the different ways that toxins come into our lives.
Thank you, Stacy. So yeah, I guess this conversation is all about not overwhelm. It's really about taking steps and eventually integrate things into your life, because there are so many avenues to detox. And I'm really passionate about not only what you're putting in your mouth, but what you're ingesting, being that skin is your largest organ also. And also, what are we putting our food in? Are we putting our food in plastic containers? I think we're all at fault for that, because as a little girl, we were just having this discussion before we started recording. Tupperware, which is still around. Now, I'm not saying that's like a generic name now, like Ziploc bags, but you just have to be aware that plastics emit chemicals, and it can offset our estrogen levels and our hormones. So when that happens, you see a lot of people with issues like little girls getting their periods at a very young age. It's the plastics that we are actually microplastics that we're ingesting from plastic bottles. So there's toxins when it overheats in your car. Be aware. Instead of using those plastic bottles, maybe get something like I have. For the YouTubers that are watching right now, it's actually a hydro flask. Not that I'm promoting hydro flask, but it's metal. And when I go and I get my coffee or whatever, when I get my organic coffee, I say, wait, instead of putting it into that plastic cup with the plastic top that's piping hot and that emits chemicals, please put it in my flask. So just remember that. That's another little tip. And as we in 2024 roll this out, because this will be something that we'll be discussing in further detail. If anyone has any questions, just DM us on Root Cause Connections. And I will have in the show notes at the end places that you can all reach us and just inquire. So thank you, ladies. I think I'm done with my little conversation here. And now I'm going to throw this over to Sue. We'd love to hear more about the environmental triggers.
Yes, thanks, Leslie and Stacy. And I'd like to talk about the environment being like our environment as nature, maybe. Like, right, what are we doing here with our nature? There's two types of environment: the natural nature and then the human made, right? And that's those toxins that we're talking about. So we're like what's happening now, we all know about, need I say, climate change. like what's going on. And if we keep doing that, all those toxins that we're putting into the earth, putting on our bodies, is just going to get worse. And then we're not going to have any way to get out in nature and really enjoy that. And like when you're in nature, in fact, this past weekend, last weekend, I did my first forest bathing. And all that is, for those that don't know, is like meditating. It's kind of like a meditation, walking through the forest. And like you're just very mindfully walking. We did do a meditation first, but then you're mindfully looking at everything. And I just felt this overwhelming sense of peace. So that helped my cortisol level, right? And what does that, like, if all this affects our genes, because that's all about our cells and our DNA, it's all there, it's all connected. And we just really need to help, like, stop all the toxins, like we're saying, putting those toxins on our body and in our body. But how about those toxins that are in the air, the air pollution and everything, that the carbon emissions that we're talking about, and being in nature and taking a walk, like that's a detox right there, right? Maybe you sweat a little, maybe you breathe heavier. What happens there? You're detoxing, right? What does that also do to your digestive tract? It helps you to poop, right? So, I mean, what we're doing, like, we just have to think about it and think about what we're doing to all of this. But the nature part is just near and dear to me. I've just become this big nature lover. I mean, I always have been, but it's even so much more important to me now in my life. So I think it's your turn, Salima.
Take it away, Salima. We'd love to hear
Thank you
more about
guys.
you.
Sue, I tell you, I share that passion because I'm from the islands. So you can't run from it. And I go through this withdrawal sometimes when I can't get outside. So I'm going to touch a little bit about another side of the environment that probably people don't really connect to. And there's actually 2 or 3 things I want to start with. And I'm going to draw a little bit of awareness to the last one. But the first 2 I'm going to talk about is our foods, right? Where do we get our food from? It's from the environment. So what is going on in our food supply that we want to think about when we want to circle back to those genes being turned on and off, and anything that could overburden the system? So let me just tell you guys this little story. So, I started cooking when I was like 9 years old. So I have a really, really strong relationship. Matter of fact, I was cooking a couple of minutes ago before we started this. I was making fish, by the way, if anybody cares to know. Anyways, so my mom was always really particular about where we got our vegetables from. I'm talking like, in the 60s, 70s, but the word functional wasn't coined at that time. And why she would say, no, don't get it from there. They spray the food. I don't know what that meant. No idea what that meant. Or she would say, oh, no, you don't buy from there. They're manure that they planted in. I don't like it. I think it's not right. It doesn't taste good. So I really grew up with this particularity in choosing fruits and vegetables. Now, in this world of the environment, we're well aware of the pesticides and the herbicides that goes into our foods. And when these things get into our system with time, it builds up. So when you have a predisposition of something like diabetes, or like Stacy mentioned, that BRCA gene, well, what else can you do to yourself to lower that load that's coming in? So we have natural foods that have natural toxins in them, right? Everybody knows there are certain, well, maybe everybody, but there are certain mushrooms that are toxic. We know there's mycotoxin in foods, like there's rice, barley, sorghum flour. Some of these foods have what's called mycotoxins, which is made from mold. We also have this addition to in our foods. For example, there is a substance called, I think it's coumarin, coumarin. Yes, coumarin is an artificial flavor that's added to cinnamon. And not only cinnamon, it's in our perfumes, it's in our lotion, it's everywhere. And what they know is that this, in turn, is also a disruptor. And there are some studies out there that have shown that this particular additive contributes to insulin resistance, which we're talking about blood sugar, right, guys? We're talking about blood sugar. So these are little things that happens and we don't even know it. So when you buy in your Starbucks or your Dunkin' Donuts or any your cinnamon added, your cinnamon roll, your cinnamon bun, most of these cinnamon has these additives in it to flavor that cinnamon. So just kind of moving forward a little bit. So, just know that your body is strong and it can handle the workload in detoxing like everybody talked about. So some of the steps you can do is, first of all, you can wash your fruits and vegetables really well. You put about maybe 2 or 3 tablespoons. I go up to 4 or 5, whatever my hands feel like that day. Chuck it in a whole bunch of water, 2 to 3 quarts. There's no recipe. Some is better than none. And you take your veggies, your grapes, your apples, your eggplant, you just dunk it in there for a little bit, rinse it off, and the baking sodas tend to alkalize the pesticides on there a little bit. So, you get a little, better, a cleaner food. The other part I could talk about, you could do some blanching. And I do want to tip on this real fast and I'll be done, is how you cook. That really, really matters, because if you high heat cook everything and you brown the heck out of everything and you sear it to the smithereens and you barbecue anything till it's black, well, there's a process called glycation, and glycation is already directly related to your blood sugar. And it's a little process that we can get into another time. It's a bunch of chemistry, so I'm not going to touch on it, but I just want people to connect that dot. So when you cook, you go medium heat. You kind of steam everything a little bit to soften your onion and your garlic when you're sauteing, and your pans. Your pans is a really big one, guys. Stay away from the non-sticks. I mean, all 4 of us, 5 of us, we could really get into some of the PFOs and the chemicals in the non-stick. That was never heard of in our day, real old school. Your pots never had that. So a good ceramic pot, a good stainless steel pot. There, I prize some of my glass saucepans that I have. My clay pots, I have quite a bit of clay pots that I like to cook in. So what you put your food in from the environment and how you cook it, really, I believe it really does make a difference, because it got to get in there as clean as possible. So, and just to bring a little more awareness, is that the EMFs, we didn't really touch on that. So maybe we'll talk about that in detail, because that's a big one. So we could stay tuned for that one. Okay, I think I gave an earful, but again, if you guys have questions, just reach out to us, where we can help you in any way.
That's great.
Yeah, you can reach out to us at info@rootcauseconnections.com.
You just took the words right out of my mouth, Stacy. I love it. Yes. And there is an area that they can actually ask us questions, comments. So don't hesitate, because, we could talk about is that what you said, Salima? The EMS, the electromagnetic
EMFs,
fields.
right. Yeah.
For people that don't know, electromagnetic fields. So we're going to wrap up today. We have so much.
Can I ask Salima a question?
Go for
Oh,
it.
yeah.
Salima.
Yeah.
So Ceylon, or however you say it, Shaylin, how do you say it? The CEYLON, which is supposed to be
Ceylon.
cinnamon.
Oh, the Ceylon. Yes.
Does
Yes.
that have the additive that you spoke of?
No, there's only one, right?
Thank you.
The
I
cashew,
do not
no,
know
yeah.
that, but
Yeah, you
what
should
I
always use the Ceylon cinnamon.
always use
Ceylon
that.
cinnamon, yeah.
But
And just a little quick tip too, when you buy a cinnamon, watch how it's rolled. The tighter the roll, that means more original. If you can hold it and you can go like that, that's not the real cinnamon bark. And of course, your pocketbook, your pocketbook.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah. I could talk a little more about it some other time, but
yeah.
That
Thanks.
That would be awesome, because we are, just for our viewers and listeners, in 2024, we're going to roll out some, just either like a simple blog with some bullet statements and just tips and tools. And I'd love for Salima to elaborate on that. And we can have that and provide that in our Root Cause Connections Facebook website. So thank you, ladies. I really appreciate this. We miss you, Linda Stevenson. She couldn't make it today, but she will be back in 2024 to provide more material. So if you are enjoying my topics and topics of conversation from our collective group, Root Cause Connections, please subscribe, show some love, rate and review, Keep It Dirty. I really would appreciate it, because the more that we can spread this awareness for our health, if we could touch people's lives, the better we will be. Also, Humboldt Healing Company's full spectrum hemp oils are whole plant extracts that contain all compounds found naturally occurring in the hemp plant. Humboldt Healing Hemp is always USDA certified organic, USA grown and produced, chemical and pesticide free, third-party lab tested, GMO free at HumboldtHealing.com. Also, avocado cookie features heart healthy ingredients like avocado and flaxseed, and uses all natural monk fruit sweeteners, making it low in sugar and keto friendly. No butter, dairy, flour, or eggs, making it gluten free and vegan friendly too. So just remember, visit their website. That's AVOCADOUGH cookie.com, and use the promo code Keep It Dirty 10, all caps. Thanks again for everybody that is supporting Keep It Dirty. And just remember, get out there, ground with Mother Earth, and keep it dirty.